everyone. So the winter time is when I start planning for next year's garden, and then I'd say maybe 75% of the time I ignore all the plans I made that winter when I actually start getting out in the garden. But one of the things I think I will follow is what herbs I'm going to grow again in the garden next year and what herbs I'm probably not going to grow. So in my garden for 2022, I basically tripled, I think, the amount of herbs compared to what I grew in 2021. What happened is I realized how much better herbs are when they're from your garden versus the store. And then I kind of went crazy getting all of the herbs that I could find. I didn't get all of them actually, because I think I ended up with maybe like 15 or 16, and I know there's a lot more herbs than that, but I tried to get one of all of the new things that I kind of had never tried before. I also got the things that I knew I really liked, but I ended up with more herbs than I typically grow and a lot more varieties than I typically grow. And what I think I'm gonna take kind of going from last year's garden to this year's garden is the amount of herbs that I use will definitely impact how many of each variety. So I want to get more varieties, or no, I want to get more plants of the varieties that I use the most often, especially when making tea. I feel like I can go through herbs fairly quickly. So I want to get more of the varieties that I really love for tea. And then there's some varieties that either I just didn't really like at all, so I'm probably not going to grow them again, or I have so much, I go through them so much slower than the other herbs that I still have some from like 2 years ago, or I still have a good amount left that I don't think I'm going to get through in the next year. So that is kind of my thought. Still maybe having about the same amount of herbs because I really liked the size of my herb garden, but having more of the varieties that I really, really love and use quite a bit. Something else I want to do too to maybe fit some more herbs in my garden, because I don't know if I want more of the individual terracotta pots. I should have hopefully some video or photos of my herb garden from last year, so I'll throw those up here so you can see what it looked like. But I don't want to have a ton of really small terracotta pots. I used 8 inches for 2 reasons. One, that means I need more drip set up. And 2, they just, kind of take up more space around the garden. So another thing I think I'm going to try to do is add more herbs into the garden beds themselves, being aware of the ones that spread very easily and probably shouldn't be added to containers with other plants. That way I can just kind of have herbs tucked away in areas and harvest them, but maybe not have them as like an own separate pot in the herb garden. So anyway, let me go through the list of what I grew this past year, and I'll kind of talk through each of them as far as the ones that I'm going to grow again and the ones that I'm not going to grow again. So first up on my list is catmint, and this ended up being a mint or an herb that I didn't really use. So I really liked the flowers on it. It was a really pretty plant in the garden. It did get attacked by aphids, which if I was going to choose an herb, it would be one that I didn't really use a lot. So I was kind of like thankful that they all went to that one, although I didn't really want an aphid covered plant in the garden. I did eventually get rid of them. My cats did like it, or at least one of our cats does. One cat really enjoys like catnip and the other one could care less. So the one that enjoys the catnip also enjoyed the catmint. But I think I have so much still. I don't have a ton, but I have like enough that if I want to use it for my cats to give them a little special treat, it's going to easily last into the next year. So I don't think I'm going to grow any more catmint, unfortunately. Sorry about that to Penelope. Next up on my list is dill, and this is definitely something I'm going to be growing again next year. It's just kind of a staple on my list. It does often get eaten by caterpillars, and I do have a hard time taking plants away from caterpillars. So we'll kind of see who gets most of the dill next year, but I think did I have 1 or 2 plants? I think I had 2 plants this year. I'm going to do 2 plants again next year. Third on my list was thyme. So thyme is the herb I use the most. I don't know what it is about thyme. I just really like it. So I think I had 1 plant this year. I'm going to get 2 plants next year. Now this is one that I saw you are not supposed to plant with other plants because it can spread. So catmint, it said don't do that with. I think basically anything in the mint family, don't do that with. Also with thyme and oregano. So those I am going to keep in their own pots, but I think I'm going to do 2 of the kind of standard thyme herb for next year. Next was pineapple sage, and this one was new to me this year. I think it was a recommendation either from someone in the comments here or someone on Instagram. And thank you so much to whoever that was, because I'll get to this in a little bit, but sage on its own to me isn't an herb I use a lot of, but pineapple sage was so good. I mean, the smell of it is fantastic. In tea, it's fantastic. I'm gonna have 2 plants of this next year. Next was lemongrass. This is also my first time growing lemongrass, and I did make some like dried grass rings. I still have a bunch in a container that I'm making tea with. We don't cook with it a ton. There's like a few recipes once in a while that'll call for it. And I don't love it as much as I love lemon balm, which is next on my list for tea. So I have still a pretty full container of it that I think should last me all through like this next year. So I don't think I'm gonna have it in the garden next year, unfortunately. But then after that was lemon balm, which was also my first year growing this plant, and another one kind of on the same level, I'd say, of love as pineapple sage. So I'm gonna get 2 of the lemon balms for next year. Use this all the time in tea. If you know any other ways to use lemon balm or pineapple sage, let me know, because if I can ingest them more than I already have been, I think that would be fantastic. Next up is oregano. That again is just kind of a staple for me in the garden. I think I'm good with 1 plant there. I always end up with quite a bit. Rosemary, I'm kind of going back and forth between 1 and 2. I love rosemary. I feel like, again, we don't use it a ton, or at least not as much as oregano or thyme. So I feel like 1 plant should be enough, but I also feel like you don't get as much from like 1 rosemary plant as you get from 1 oregano plant. So I don't know, 1 or 2 of those next year, but rosemary will definitely be in the garden. Then I had pesto basil. So I had 1 pesto basil plant, 1 regular basil plant. I'm sure they're probably supposed to taste different, and maybe someone with a better palate than me could taste the difference. They tasted the same to me. I did like the look of the pesto basil. I thought it was a really pretty plant. So if I can find that again next year, I will definitely grow it. But if I can't find it for some reason, it's not something that I'm going to miss having in the garden, because I'll just get another regular basil plant to replace it. So with the regular basil, again, it's just something I always have in the garden. I'm probably gonna do 2 of those, because when we do things like make pesto, you need a lot of the basil. So I think 2 plants for our 2-person household works really well. Next up was lavender. I love the smell of lavender. I love the look of lavender plants. They did not do well for me this year. They barely flowered. I think I was probably giving them too much water. Well, combination of me and Mother Nature potentially giving them too much water. I don't know if they had enough sun, because again, we're east and west facing with our decks. So we don't have the southern exposure, which would get sun all day long. It is, you know, morning hours or afternoon hours. Still enough for a full sun garden, but maybe not enough for what the lavender really needs. So I don't think I'm gonna grow lavender next year, which kind of makes me sad. But I think I mentioned in the video where I was showing you all of my herbs that I do still have, I just bought some culinary grade lavender, and that works fine for me. Next is regular mint. Now this one is interesting to me. So I grew regular mint, or I think it was called like sweet mint, and chocolate mint. And I've grown chocolate mint 2 years now, I think, or is it 3 years? But I don't really like the taste of just regular mint. Like mint tea, even like mint flavored chocolate from the store. I really don't like just the flavor of mint, but I really like the chocolate mint herb, which is really strange to me. Maybe it's because the chocolate mint herb is less like chewing gum tasting. You can definitely taste some hints of chocolate in there. I also really like apple mint. So like anything that is mint but also has the other flavor in it in an herb I really like. I just don't really love regular mint as much. I still have a ton in a jar that I have in my cabinet, so I don't think I'm gonna grow regular mint this year, but I think I'm gonna get 2 of the chocolate mint. I actually haven't been able to find an apple mint yet for myself. I do know that it grows like out in the wild over in Lincoln Park. Trying my hardest not to go and just dig up a plant from there. But if I can find an apple mint myself, I will also get that, but I'm not gonna do regular mint next year. So no regular mint, more chocolate mint, and hopefully some other mint type varieties. Next is parsley. Again, that's kind of like my go-to herb, so we'll have 1 of those again for next year. and also lemon thyme. So I love lemon thyme as well. Very, very lemony scent. Like if I rub it on my fingers, I can just smell like lemons. So that I'm definitely gonna grow another one of. I definitely use the regular thyme more than lemon thyme. So probably 2 regular thyme, 1 lemon thyme plants. And that should keep me satisfied with thyme for that next year. And then last on my list is tricolor sage. So like I said, I love the pineapple sage. I don't use regular sage a lot, but I don't know if I just don't like cook a lot of recipes that include it, or I don't really know enough of how to use it. So if you use sage a lot, let me know how you do it. But I like to grow the tricolor sage because part of it's pink, so it's really pretty. But I think this would be a good one. And as far as I could tell, there wasn't anything that warned me not to plant it with other plants in containers because it spreads. So let me know if it is more invasive than I think, but I think that would look really pretty as an accent plant in some of my beds. And then I can just harvest from it as needed, but then it won't have its own like pot in my herb garden, but it will be kind of mixed in with the other plants. So I think that is going to be my plan for the tricolor sage. But yeah, there's other ways that you use sage, let me know. Something I want to do more of this winter is using the herbs to make some room sprays, because I really, really enjoy like having the scent kind of around the room. I have made a lavender room spray, which is in my office. And then I also bought a sage, it's like sage something spray. I'll link it down below, but I got it from a garden center. It's like a pretty common brand though. I don't think it was specific to that garden center. But I like to spray that on my pillows right before I go to sleep. So I think that would lead me to believe I like the smell of sage. So I might try making some room sprays with that, definitely with the lemon balm and the pineapple sage, if I can part from enough of it to make a room spray, but they're just like little bottles, so I actually don't need too much of that. But with the room spray, when I do it, I will also put a video together on that, but I'll link down the video that I followed for the lavender room spray. I'm gonna get the channel name wrong off the top of my head, but I think it's like Fairyland Cottage, Fairyland Garden. It's a really magical name. Her videos are very relaxing. So I will link that down below in case you want to make a room spray yourself. So I think that's gonna be everything for this video. Definitely let me know what herbs are on your list, because maybe I need to add some to mine. If there was an herb that I said I'm gonna get rid of, but you can convince me that I should grow it for some other purpose, let me know that too. It is always hard for me to not have something in the garden because I'm always a person who's like, well, what if I need it for this reason? But I am trying to, again, keep myself contained to the space that I have so that I don't go completely crazy with the amount of small pots just laying all over the deck. And also let me know just how you've been using your herbs this winter, because maybe there's ways that I haven't been that I should be using my herbs. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.